I'm Dave Jones. I work with a nonprofit called Clean Elections Texas. Every time I listen, I learn something new. I love that. And I just believe in what you guys do. I think that if people are not well informed, if they don't get the true facts about what's going on in this world, we're never going to make a difference. We're never going to change things. And it's the information that you guys provide that really do that. It's great. It's just outstanding.
It's Thursday, July 3rd, 2025, and this is the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch, rapid response on the breaking news stories Texas progressives need to know. I'm Chris Mosier. Big bullshit continues in D.C. As of a bit before 7 a.m. this morning, after yet another all-nighter at the Capitol, the Associated Press says House Republicans say they are ready to vote on Donald Trump's $4.5 trillion tax breaks and spending cuts bill, the big bullshit bill. GOP leaders and the president himself have worked all night long to strong-arm skeptical Republican holdouts to drop their opposition by Trump's arbitrary 4th of July deadline, which of course is now less than a day away. Some of the latest Trump lies about the bill include his bullshit that it ends taxes on Social Security benefits. In fact, it does not. This bill can be seen as an erasure of the progress for America achieved during both the Barack Obama and Joe Biden administrations, and its undermining of the Affordable Care Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. The news is moving fast, y'all, so this could be out of date even at just a few hours old. But CBS Austin last night reported that Austin Congressman Lloyd Doggett was still holding out hope that the bill could be stopped in the House, with 4 Republicans joining the United Democrats in opposition. That's all it would take. Doggett reminds us that if it passes, up to 1.7 million more Texans could become uninsured. That would add to the 4.9 million already living without coverage in the Lone Star State. Folks on Medicaid, especially vulnerable. Also potentially old news by now. New York Times reporting from last night that Austin Congressman Chip Roy, over on the other side, could be one of several Republican fiscal hawks who might possibly brave the wrath of Donald Trump to hold steady in his penny-pinching ways. But you ask us, such a display of integrity in today's Republican Party is probably quite the long shot. Roy continues bitching about the over $3 trillion that's going to end up on America's collective tab, but he did vote for the initial House version when he got work requirements for Medicaid moved up 3 years from 2029 to 2026. If one thing can gain Chip Roy's favor, it's cruelty. Feels a bit like beating a dead horse here, but the big bullshit bill will be awful for Texas. Lucio Vasquez at the Texas Newsroom lines up with another rundown about higher grocery bills, fewer healthcare options, including the closing of rural hospitals, targeting older Texans struggling for work by taking away their SNAP benefits, and lots more, all simply to pay for tax breaks for the rich on the backs of the rest. One particular pain point for Texas we haven't really beaten into the ground is the undermining of our renewable energy sector, which just dodged a bullet with the end of the last state legislative session. Nick Powell at the Houston Chronicle says Chip Roy's disdain for clean energy might also persuade him to look the other way on that massive deficit hike. The big bullshit bill will phase out tax credits for wind and solar projects, will let tax credits for heat pumps and residential solar panels expire at the end of this year, and will also allow electric vehicle tax credits to expire by the end of September. That's what Elon Musk is pouting about lately. The nation awaits what appears to be the likely passage of perhaps the single worst piece of American legislation since the pre-Civil War era. Beyond that, we'll be looking to next year's elections when we predict that these same Republicans will reap what they sow. Speaking of which, rumblings in Texas for 2026 as the usually pretty dead-on quorum report goes there with chatter coming out of San Antonio that freshly former Mayor Ron Nirenberg is considering a run against Greg Abbott for governor of Texas. We are big fans, as you may have noticed here at Progress Texas. We had a great talk with Mayor Ron a few months ago in San Antonio. We were joined by newly elected Mayor Gina Ortiz-Jones at that same event. That's worth a review now. Sticking a link to that podcast episode in the show notes. Me personally, I'm doing my best to give a little time to promising upstart candidates at the moment who at least are the potential source of solid policy ideas and are an important part of keeping our more established characters honest, I'd say. 2 in particular, not the only 2 by any means, are former astronaut Terry Virts of the Houston area, who's declared to run for Senate. He talked to Josh Dinner at space.com about his views and motivations for running, and I like this quote: "To those whom much has been given, much will be expected," unquote. That's quite the opposite of what we're seeing from Trump's big bullshit bill. And I'm also watching East Texas farmer and firefighter Bobby Cole, who's running for governor and whom Jeremy Wallace at the Houston Chronicle wrote up. Cole says, quote, Republicans have spent 30 years in office and working men and women have been having to pay the cost. It has to stop. We need more people like us, working people in the government, unquote. And I like that too. Links to learn more about both these guys in the show notes, and we're looking to have conversations with both of them soon. With everything else going on, you may have forgotten that we're a few days out from a special legislative session here in Texas. KHOU-TV in Houston notes that one characteristic of this particular special is likely to be a growing conflict between the two most powerful office holders in the state, Governor Abbott and Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and how that personal beef could end up in a deadlock between the House, where a lot of Republicans are quietly celebrating the governor's veto of Dan's ban on THC products in Texas, and the Senate, which Patrick rules with an iron fist. The THC fight, as stupid as it is becoming a likely fault line within the Texas GOP, and over here we're getting the popcorn ready. That expected lawsuit from the ACLU against that new Texas law requiring the 10 Commandments to be prominently displayed in every Texas classroom has arrived. KXAN-TV in Austin says 16 families are part of the suit, which names a bunch of individual districts across the state. Dr. Eric McDaniel at UT Austin says he thinks the law is part of a broader push from the conservative side to redefine the separation of church and state, and that given the current makeup of the U.S. Supreme Court, legal challenges to this law are anything but a slam dunk. Here's one to take with you into the 4th of July weekend. Amber Heckler at Culture Map Austin notes the state of Texas's abysmal placing on a new ranking of the most patriotic states. This is a Wallet Hub study that measured patriotism not by flag flying or militant tough guy t-shirt bumper sticker posturing, but much more appropriately by factors including our voter turnout, civic education and engagement, and volunteerism rates. Measured that way, Texas did terribly, coming in at number 45, outdoing only Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, New York, and dead last Arkansas. Our state clearly needs a reframing of what patriotism actually means, and it sure ain't what MAGA thinks it is. Top 5 here were Oregon, Colorado, Vermont, Montana, and number 1, Virginia. All places worth visiting for sure, which brings us to the ongoing Progress Texas Summer Vacation Series. Our man in Far West Texas is advocacy manager Reagan Stone. He's been taking a look at the effect of Donald Trump's cuts on the Big Bend region in particular. Texas Public Radio has too. They say Trump's undercutting of the National Park Service is not only foolish on a practical level, it's also politically stupid, as that agency consistently ranks as America's most trustworthy and fiscally sound as well. Despite accounting for less than 1% of the federal budget, the National Park Service contributed more than $55 billion to the U.S. economy in 2023, says the Department of the Interior. Only a complete dumbass would mess around with something that popular and successful. Look for more from Reagan out in the Big Bend this holiday weekend on our socials. Our mission at Progress Texas is to counter the conservative disinformation machine, which is funded by oil and tech billionaires and religious right-wing activist groups, all while fact-based independent media outlets increasingly face funding threats. While access to those outlets is frequently free, as it is here at Progress Texas, it does take listener and viewer support to keep fact-based independent media going. So if you've come to appreciate what we do here at Progress Texas, now more than ever, we could use your support as a monthly contributor, and no amount is too small. Go to progresstexas.org/donate. Thanks so much to Nancy Daniels, Lanny DeGuire, and Irene Escalante, all three of whom are on the team. We appreciate all of y'all. That's the Progress Texas Daily Dispatch for this Thursday, July 3rd, 2025. Links to all these original stories can be found in our show notes. Progress Texas is a nonprofit rapid response media organization promoting progressive messages and actions. While campaigns come and go, we're the permanent home for progressive media and action in the Lone Star State. I'm Chris Mosier. Thanks so much for listening. Have a happy and safe 4th of July, and we'll see you again on Monday.